Hi there, I'm Rex King. Welcome back to another episode of From the Archive. Today we're talking about Wait Until Dark. If you're wondering where my Dread review is, well, I did announce during my 8 movies of Alan Arkin that I recommend that to honor one of the greatest men to ever grace the silver screen, I am going to be talking about what I believe are his two best performances. So I'm going to be talking about Wait Until Dark, which is his best performance as a supporting actor. And the movie after this I'll be talking about is The Heart is the Lonely Hunter, which is my favorite film as a leading actor by Alan Arkin. Without further ado, let's dive straight in. Wait Until Dark was directed by Terrence Young and is based off a play by Frederick Knott. It was released on October 27th, 1967, and it did really well at the box office, earning $17.5 million on a budget of $3 million. And it did really well with the critics as well, as it ended up earning Audrey Hepburn, the main star of the film, a Oscar nomination for her performance. The film centers around Susie, a recently blind woman who ends up being hounded by these three guys, led by Mr. Roach, played by Alan Arkin, who want this heroin stuffed doll that they believe is in her apartment and are going to extreme lengths to recover it. So this story on its own is fantastic. The plot is very gripping, and it's interesting to see these three characters try to deceive this blind woman to try to locate this doll, and the tricks that they end up using to try to get at her that end up both confusing and tormenting her, but also the fact that she's really smart and really clever ends up throwing them off, so they have to think of ways to recover when they start to realize she's putting the pieces together. Now, this is helped by the fact that the characters are all really well written. Susie is a very great character. She really wants to support her husband, and she wants to be good and independent, despite the fact that the blindness is really new to her, and she is clearly struggling with her environment with her recent blindness. And Roach is the type of cool, calm, collective menace that makes a film like this work so well. The visuals are all really good. This is a one location flick for the most part. It takes place in one room in an apartment, and it uses this environment to its advantage really well. Then you have the music, which was done by Henry Mancini, and he does a fantastic job writing a beautiful, well-crafted score for a film like this. On its own, Wait Until Dark is quite a good film. But the main reason we're talking about it is Alan Arkin's performance as Roach. And quite easily, this is the best performance in the film, outside of maybe Audrey Hepburn as Susie. Alan Arkin manages to do something in this film that we never really get to see him do for the rest of his career, and that is play a tried and true villain. He does play antagonists later in his career, but none of them are really villainous. They're just kind of obstacles that the characters have to overcome. This is the only truly evil character that he ends up playing. And it's really interesting to see Alan Arkin play a character who's cool, calm, level-headed, and very intimidating. And to make things even more complicated, Roach ends up playing a couple different roles in the trickery part of the film, where they're trying to trick Susie into believing the story of her husband killing his potential lover. So he ends up playing 2 other roles, and he has to also make sure that those roles are convincing as additional to his role as Roach. And I really do like what Alan Arkin is able to convey here, as he does really well playing 2 different characters in addition to his villainous persona. and it works really well, and you fully believe him in these other roles, and he is quite convincing. I really enjoyed his dynamic with Audrey Hepburn, as these two characters are complete opposites. We have someone who's genuinely a nice person but is hindered by her disability, to someone who is cool, calm, and calculating but is evil to the core. So it's interesting how these two opposites play off each other, especially when we're talking about the climax of the film, which is iconic at this point. I really enjoyed every moment that these two were on screen, and when they're finally matching wits against each other, it is riveting. This film is enjoyable and is a must watch. Now, is it a buy, stream, or avoid altogether? Well, the special features on the Blu-ray include interviews with Alan Arkin, producer Mel Ferrier, the making of the film, theatrical trailer. Not a ton, but there's enough here where I do think this film is definitely worth the buy, especially since the movie is so good. I really enjoyed Wait Until Dark, and I really think it showed off a different part of Alan Arkin's career that nobody really looks into and really needs to look at as a vehicle of how good he was as an actor. Now, this, as I said, is his best supporting role. Next week, we'll be taking a look at his best starring role. The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. And I'll see you then.